Good evening. I would like to call this workshop to order at 2:16 p.m. Our first item is item number 126-3638. Student safety presentation titled Traffic Stops and Teen Drivers, Staying Safe, Smart, and in Control by Assistant State Attorney Robert Lewis of the Office of the State Attorney and the 5th Judicial Court, and also Dr. Morris. Before you guys begin, I would like to say that if we can try to keep your presentation to the 45 minutes. I'm sorry that we're starting late. Appreciate it. You may begin. And welcome.
All right. Good afternoon, board chair, board members, Superintendent Pinder. My name is John Morris. I'm Director of Secondary Programs. Today I have Mr. Robert Lewis in here today. He's just going to do an overview of a presentation. Mr. Lewis had come to me to discuss getting into classrooms to educate students on traffic awareness, how to handle certain situations and such. And I know he also came to a board meeting and discussed this with you guys during citizens comment, and the request was to have Mr. Lewis come back and present. So, you know, what we talked about was he's going to do really an overview of the slides. He's not going to go through every individual slide, an overview, but I think the important thing is probably to see, you know, get your thoughts about this being in schools, obviously geared towards high schoolers, and you know, with the videos and such, you know, and your thoughts of if this is something. There's things in here, you know, we don't necessarily have standards for this kind of thing. We have driver's education, but not all these things are more geared towards how to handle certain situations when it comes to dealing with police or anything like that. So it's more geared towards that as opposed to just straight driver education standards. So I just wanted to make you aware of those as he starts to discuss those things. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
That is correct. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time being here. Just to refresh your recollection as to last time I was here, just my background, I'm a homicide prosecutor with the State Attorney's Office, but specifically I do the traffic homicides, and I've done that for about 7 or 8 years. And while most of those involve alcohol or reckless driving or something like this, what came to my attention is that these kids work really hard to try to get a driver's license, get a learner's permit. There's a whole lot of information as to how to get to that point, and then once you get the driver's license, there's really nothing out there to help them deal with law enforcement. I've dealt with law enforcement as a prosecutor many years ago as a defense attorney. I know kind of both sides of it, and I think I can present a pretty even-handed safety presentation. And again, I try to emphasize I'm not here to say, look, at whatever the cop says you do, and you stand up and do whatever they, or most of the stuff on YouTube they're seeing right now is how to be a constitutional lawyer and how to argue your way out of a ticket, how to get likes, how to get views, things like that. And my goal is to just give them enough information to know what to do when they get pulled over, where to keep your hands, how to act appropriately, things like that. And if they're going to, you know, refuse a search request or something, how to do that, how to do that politely, and the whole goal is student and law enforcement officer drive away, and everybody's good at that point. I've got a video. I've got 2 excerpts of a video included in here. It was from about a year and change ago up in Jacksonville, where a driver had an interaction with the police. It got quite a bit of notoriety. I use this as an example as far as what to do, what not to do, and we'll start with that. I try not to be too hyperbolic with it, but I thought this was an appropriate way to at least get their attention.
When he pulled me over, he walked up, opened my door because my window don't work, right? And then I said, so what I did wrong? Yeah. He said, well, for one, your headlights are off under this weather. I'm like, okay. There's multiple people headlights off, first of all. And then there's no rain.
It doesn't matter. You're still required to have headlights on.
Can you pull that law up?
Huh?
Can you pull that law up?
Yeah, when you step out of the car, I will.
Can you call your supervisor? Huh? Can you call your supervisor?
All right, go for it.
Exit the vehicle now. Exit the vehicle. Show me your hands.
Here.
I'm here. What is your reason, sir? What is your reason?
Step out now. All right. No, don't.
Okay, and I start with that, and basically we start asking the students questions. What do you how do you think the law enforcement acted? How do you think the driver acted? And again, at first glance, you look at that going, why on earth would this guy get punched? Why would this guy get ripped out of a car for just sitting there asking questions? I then show a longer version of it. And the reason I do that is I want to give them an idea of what everyone's perspective is, not just the perspective of the driver, but the perspective of what the law enforcement officer is, what they see, and give them a little bit of understanding with this. So, and then this is the slightly longer video that I play for them. I think it's longer.
Yeah, Florida 24 Bravo Echo Charlie Whiskey on a silver Kia. I don't like this.
Yes, sir.
Is there a reason why you're popping the door open like that?
I don't have a window that works. Is there a reason that you're pulling me over?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a reason why I'm pulling you over. For one thing, inclement weather, you don't have your lights on. Two things, you're not wearing your seatbelt.
It's daylight. I don't need the lights. And it's not weather. It's not raining.
Oh, this is inclement.
It's not raining.
Okay, I'm not arguing with you. I'm telling you why I'm pulling you over. Give me your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance.
No, call your supervisor. Why?
Excuse me?
Call your supervisor. Why did you pull me over?
77, 35. I'm proper driver. I've already told you.
Why did you pull me over?
Step out of the vehicle.
No.
Step out of the
Pull me
vehicle.
over.
25 seconds. For 94, the driver just slammed the door and locked it. Yep. If anybody responding, come in from Commonwealth, block the vehicle, please. Keep your hands where I can see them, sir. My camera's on too. I've already told you. Okay. Okay. Right now you're under arrest for resisting. Do you understand? You're under arrest for resisting. The longer you take us on, the worse it's going to be. Sir, this is your last warning to open the vehicle and exit before we're going to break the window. Open the door and exit or we are going to break the window. Open the door and exit or we are going to break the window. No, he's under arrest. Hey, I'm about to break the window. I'm about to break the window. Exit the vehicle now! Exit the vehicle! Show me your hands. Here.
33 at 15.1 hours.
What is your reason? Step out. What is your reason? Step out now. Get over here. No, don't touch it.
Put your hands behind your back. Resist. Hands behind your back.
Now, that obviously shows a longer perspective of this. And again, I don't want to be overly hyperbolic with them, but again, I can find shooting videos, I can find much worse than this. I want something to be able to grab their attention as to, first of all, what the perspective is, and second of all, how these things can go south, even if you're going 10 miles over the speed limit. You get pulled over, and what the proper interaction would be with a law enforcement officer at that juncture. As far as the video portion, do you guys have any questions on that? Okay. I go through kind of a question and answer. I put a little bit of the text here where we go over what was said, what was done, how did they act. And again, after the second video, how many people think the cops acted improperly? Okay, and they probably would say, I'm venturing to say, a few more will probably say, well, now that I see everything, I kind of understand why it went down the way it did. Again, with the whole premise being, let's prevent this from happening in the first place. You are, and realistically, this gentleman, Mr. McNeil, had arrest warrants, had things there was a reason why he was doing this. Presumably, most of these kids are not going to have anything like that. It's going to be probably not paying attention, something along those lines, and put them in a position, where they understand what to do and how to talk with law enforcement. We'll talk about what he could have done differently, what the cop could have done, what the driver could have done. Try to go over with them the fact that this presentation is not, I try to draw it down the middle as being pro-safety for them. Giving them some advice of things that I've seen and how I've seen things, how I've seen things go sideways. After seeing that, I think a lot of the questions I will probably get is, well, I don't have warrants. I don't fight cops, so why does this apply to me? Well, you might be distracted. You might be, somebody. Yes, you could have somebody fleeing from a crime, everything like that. But it could be just as easy as you're listening to the radio, you're listening to music, and you're distracted. You may not be paying attention. There's a whole host of reasons why this might happen. But the key is, how are you going to act when it does happen? I try not to go way too much on the law, but a lot, because of all the misinformation a lot of the students have is, well, if, I'm speeding, the cop can't pull me over. Well, the cop can pull you over, and I tell them the authority for why they can do a traffic stop and things like that. I'm not going to belabor that with them. I don't know that they'd be terribly interested in it, but I want to let them know that, contrary to what they might have been told, the cops generally aren't just going to be hassling them for the sake of hassling them and pulling them over for that. I go through a couple of, probably 3 or 4 scenarios here of different cases that have happened around the country over the last 10 years where what looked to be a routine traffic stop turned tragic when one of the kids in the car, Mr. Rose, ended up getting shot as they were running away. Jordan Edwards was shot. He was riding in a car, and he was unarmed. The vehicle's pulling away. Apparently, my reading of this is Mr. Edwards, as a passenger, didn't do anything wrong, but because of the situation, this is how quickly these things can go ahead and escalate. This is a case of next slide is a case of a 17-year-old shot by Texas DPS. Again, most of these have kind of the same premise of what looks to be a rather routine traffic stop that ends up going wrong. Again, broken taillight. Look, I've raised 3 teenagers. I'll say relatively successfully because I've got 2 of them that are actually gainfully employed right now. So I'll take that as a victory. But as these kids, they're not used to these situations. The example I'm going to give them is, quite honestly, I was going to court about 3-4 months ago, and I was pulled over. I was pulled over by one of the officers that I did a training with and everything. I know every cop in Hernando County. I was nervous. I was speeding, and I had no realistic basis to think anything was going to go sideways. I was nervous. And if I'm nervous talking to a cop that I know, I can imagine what's going through their mind on somebody who doesn't know what the process is of, are they, why does the cop go back to the car? Well, he's running the tag. Why did he take my license, and why does he have my license still on? Well, he's making sure there's no warrants and things of that nature. And just to try to get them to breathe a little bit, calm, and answer the questions respectfully. I talk about not just a broken taillight. I give an example of a speeding incident. The failure to pull over immediately. There are some students that say, well, no matter where I'm at, I need to pull over. Well, if it's late at night, you're in a really dark area, most law enforcement officers are going to tell you, pull over someplace safe. If you have to go a little bit and do that, go ahead and do that. And again, trying to focus on safety first. Again, try to explain to them that when you get pulled over, it's not traffic court. That a little bit of grace probably goes a long way in terms of being polite with the officer and things like that. But I also explain to them you might get a really good cop on a really bad day who may have just had an argument with their significant other. There may be, and maybe you're getting more attitude from the law enforcement officer than you think you should be getting. Well, things are, as we all know now, are all going to be on body cam, and they will be something that can be rectified down the road, but that's not the time to try to win your case in court. I try to give them from the cop's perspective what goes on, the visibility of hands, where are you going to put that, are there additional passengers in the car, to minimize movements, what's your vehicle behavior before stopping, are there any, obviously, hopefully not, but odor of alcohol, marijuana, things like that. The fact of not, I mean, you're going to be nervous, but having your hands on the wheel at 10 and 2, making eye contact, yes sir, no ma'am, things like that, are going to go a long way in de-escalating this stop. Acknowledge the officer, turn on your hazard light. Yeah, I give them a checklist of what to do. Again, it's not something they're going to have in front of them, but I think if they at least even are able to hear this one time, it's going to put them in a situation of, okay, they can at least start to go through this in their head and, avoid what could potentially be, a problematic situation. Talking about how to go, if you have your license in your pocket, that's the first thing is cops are going to be looking at your hands. What are you going to do? Ask, can I pull my driver's license out? I have my license in my purse, what have you. Can I go ahead and do that? You have the right not to answer questions if you want to do that. And if they want to do that, I explain to them, if you're going to do that, you can do that, but please, doing it in a polite but assertive way. You never have to consent to a search. Again, as a prosecutor, people that consent to a search, that's always usually really good for us, but I'm not going to be talking to them so much as a prosecutor as I am somebody who, look at, in the example I try to give them is, okay, you're not doing anything wrong. You've avoided you're living life the right way. What if you're from a family, and I'll probably put it in more diplomatic terms than this, but maybe an economically challenged family where you've got 5 people and they all share a car. And you may have an older brother that was in that car that night before. You don't know what's in there. You just don't have to do that, but there's a polite way to do it. There's a polite way to say, sir, I share this car with family, and I respectfully wish to not give you consent right now. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And so I try to arm them with that information of, again, the body language, how to comport yourself in front of law enforcement. I try to give them some examples of, can the cops search my car? Yes, they can. One of the things we talk about is, I'll go to the one I talk about, not just consent searches, but canine. I have my college students say, well, if I get pulled over for a speeding ticket, they can't bring the canine dog to alert on my car. They can't do that. That's illegal. And I explain to them, guess what? It's not. As long as the cop's writing your ticket and not keeping you there an extraordinary period of time, if the canine guy comes up and the dog takes a walk around and alerts on something, that gives them probable cause to search the car. I want these kids to have this information. It's only good. The information is only going to help them at least understand the situation and realize, okay, this may happen. If they're going to ask me to get out of the car, I'm going to get out of the car. I'm going to act politely. Everything's going to be on camera. So if the cop is acting, if having a bad day, let's say, that's all going to be something that's going to come out. Again, they don't need a warrant and things of that nature. If you disagree with the cop, again, it's not time to go to court. You can assert your rights politely, but again, save the disagreements for court. I even give them kind of the text of, if you're not going to consent to a search, how you go ahead and do it. Lack of experience usually equals increased nervousness. Peer passengers, I try to focus on this, escalate tension. You can have one honor student in a car and that kid is amazing. You can have 2 honor students in a car and the IQ level goes right down to the floor, okay? And so that's also something that the law enforcement officers are taking into account as they go ahead and deal with this, and I want them to understand that. If they want to go ahead and record something, they can certainly record it, but probably let the officer know, I'm going to be recording this. And again, unfortunately, most of the things you see on social media are, hey, look at what this cop's doing, and they don't care if they get arrested. Matter of fact, they want to get arrested. They want to get arrested because they want to up their social media profile, and that's not what I'm trying to emphasize during this presentation. I try to let them know that to think ahead of time as far as, okay, you get pulled over, they're going to want your license, your registration, your proof of insurance. Have that in an easily accessible place where you don't have to start going through the glove box or going through it. You have them in, I have a clip-on visor where you can just have all of that up there when you get in the vehicle. I talk to them about that, or at least having it in an area that's going to be easily accessible, that's going to cut down on hand movements. Try to stay as calm as they can. Take a deep breath. Understand that 999 times out of 1,000, that cop is doing their job and probably is going to act in a relatively polite way with them. Again, safer interactions, fewer misunderstandings. It's going to allow all of them to go ahead and walk away. So that's the basis of the presentation. I, more than anything else, wanted to make sure that if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Ms. Duval.
I hope you get in to talk with our students. I think it's needed. And I think you will have some fascinating conversations with our students with real life situations that they may have been a part of or not been a part of, but know about.
Sure.
But the information that you are able to share with them is extremely valuable. But I'd love to listen to the reaction of the students.
Thank you. And again, I can do it to a larger audience. I think it's probably going to be a little more effective, probably in the 20 to 30 student range. I think if I get an auditorium full of 200-300, I'm going to have 10 people paying attention, and the other ones, I know, have been around teenagers enough. I know exactly how they'd be. So I think if maybe a little, and again, I don't care about the time. I mean, if I have to come, my goal is over the next 12 months is to try to get this in front of every Hernando County student that has a driver's license or a permit.
I appreciate that. That is amazing of you to dedicate your time and do that.
Well,
and it's very much needed.
Well, thank you. And it's a passion of mine because, again, the situations I see, usually they're drug and alcohol involved, but if I don't see another kid being cut out of a car after a bad crash or have to hear about a standoff between law enforcement and stuff like that, because you talk to the law enforcement officers, even the SWAT guys, and they're dealing with sometimes really bad people. If they have to discharge their weapon, that has a psychological effect on them, and a lot of times they're not right. And they would, I'm trying to make sure that, at least from a traffic stop perspective, these kids are going to have they can at least try to recall that, try to calm down a little bit. It's just going to go a long way. The sheriff's done a great job as far as trying to train the officers in the appropriate way to try not to escalate the situation. It's not perfect. And, I try to tell them flat out, you may very well run into a cop that's not having a good day. And you can't control that, but you can control how you respond to that. And that I think is the important part.
Mr. Johnson?
Thank you. So there's no cost from the circuit court to the school district for this program?
Absolutely not. I'm volunteering my time for that.
So how long do you think a presentation would take?
I can probably do it in as quickly as 30, as long as 60, probably 45 is probably the sweet spot. I want to leave some time for questions, but also what I want to be able to do during this presentation is, in a classroom of, let's say, 20 or 30, take one or two of them, kind of bring them up, sit them in a chair. I'll be the cop, they're the driver, and I'll start firing questions at them and see how they react. The dual enrollment students that gave me that idea, and of course they're like, take the cockiest kid, take the most popular kid, put him up there and do that. It's
Role
like,
play.
well, this is not an exercise in humiliation, but I do want to be able to hold their attention and get the point across.
I don't know if you can answer this question, but how much time in a given week would you be able to donate towards this?
I mean, look, Mr. Morris can tell you, we're trying to just coordinate this. I'm in court quite a bit.
I know,
But I can't give you a definite answer on that. But what I can do, that's why I'm saying, okay, we got to do this in 30 days, and I got to get in front of everybody. I got to get in front of auditoriums. That's not going to be. But as far as whether it's going to be let's say incorporated into driver's ed or into some sort of an assembly or some sort of teaching, something like that, or if we take a day and I'll just take an entire day and just go class to class to class, we can do it that way too. I'm pretty wide open as far as that goes.
All right, so, but once it's said, if we set a schedule, you'll be able to keep the date?
I should be able to, yes. Because I have, the trial schedule that I have is set usually several months in advance and things like that. So that part of it won't be, and again, I know when I generally have my court dates and things like that.
I like the idea that you're trying to de-escalate the actual stop, the confrontation, and that's a great idea, and I think that will go a long way. One thing you don't have in this, which you glossed over in your notes, when I get stopped, I automatically roll down the rear windows, so as the policeman or the deputy is coming up, they can look into the car and see that I'm by myself or with my wife, whatever it happens to be. But I mean, that's just something I do automatically. But then again, I do investigations for a living, so I just...
Understood.
I think it's a shame that we don't already have it in our driver's ed curriculum, unfortunately, since it's definitely needed.
Right. So, and just going back to my kind of point, I'm full on standards aligned, everything. It just keeps us safe when it comes to something may come up and it's like, well, why was this in the school when it's not standards aligned? And this is typically when people come to me with these things, it's usually an easy no, because I don't want to put us in that position of having a guest presenter do something. Now it comes back to you guys. Why was this guy in a school presenting this? So this one, obviously he had emailed me, talked to you guys as well, felt that it was probably something maybe you guys at least wanted to hear out. It seems like you guys do think this would be something important. Then the next step would, if it's something you guys do approve, it would probably coordinate with the high schools in terms of doing. Right now we have drivers at Central High School. They were the first one to start it with the driver program. We do have a couple more schools bringing it back on next year as we go. So I would coordinate with those teachers it'd be easier for them to coordinate with Mr. Lewis.
Sure.
Hey, could I have you come out on, October 31st? Not Halloween, that was a bad example. But, like something like that, like come out this day.
Right.
I have driver's ed from periods 1 through 3, from 8 o'clock till 10:30, and I'm giving you, ask him 2 months in advance. Maybe that's something he can work out with his schedule and such, or if it's something in the afternoon. That way it would be easier as opposed to, hey, just let me know next year what your schedule is going to look like, because I know court changes for him quite often. It's up and down when he has to be there and such. So I think that would be the next step. I wanted approval from you guys first, so if something did come out of this presentation and then it jumped back to you, why was my kid sitting in this class when this was reviewed? I didn't want to say, well, I can't say it's standards aligned because some of it's not.
My next question would be, Mr. Meyer, is this something we need to approve as a board, or is this something we just need a consensus on?
Well, what he just touched on, we need to make sure that we're covered on that. I love the program, and I think that, once again, like Mrs. Duvall said, I think it's something that the kids do need to see. And I appreciate that you are willing to sacrifice your time and for you to do this. It's so passionate, and I can't say thank you enough. But what you did say was we have to make sure we don't end up in a position where we have a student in your class and we get called as a board saying, why is that student taking that, sitting there listening to that when we didn't approve it? So we just have to, we work out those kinks, and I definitely think that it's
Mr. Meyer.
I don't think the board has to formally approve it. I mean, I would think that it would, if there's consensus, you give the direction to the superintendent. It's something, should be how you offer it. I mean, I guess are there some curriculum issues, or these are just presentations that are to be made across the district?
We have guest speakers and such, but this is something, just because there's sensitive material in here was why I brought this.
So I think it's really within the superintendent's domain more. The board is supporting it, but it's up to the superintendent to bless it, really.
But we have
Bonzik, sorry.
Can we do like you said, during driver's ed, I think that's a great idea. Maybe sometime during that class. Perfect, right? They're learning to drive. Second, can we do a notification to parents, a consent form, that they will be sitting in on something that has graphic detail about being pulled over, et cetera, et cetera. That way, I would think we would be covered at that point as long as the parents are signing.
Yeah, give them an opt-out.
Yeah,
Right.
The consent is really important.
The
here,
important
and I think there should be an opt-out, and there could be some language that's used that some parents might
Right,
find offensive
right.
and all that, maybe even some racially tinged language. So I think that some sort of, we can design a consent.
Should that also go on Parent Square when it's happening? For the sake of, I've been in this position. I was in this position a year ago at one of our schools where all the parents were calling because we had a speaker there, and it was like our Children Advocacy Center, here in our community, and good people, and they showed up and they did a presentation. Well, the parents were wanting to know, why weren't we told? Because we didn't discuss certain things with our kid yet, and the kids were little at that point, and we didn't want them to hear such and such. Well, what had happened was the consent was the biggest portion of that consent form to go home. But a lot of times too, you send those home, and those kids don't give it to their parents. So you got
Well, then they don't. They're not going to
We
be able
could
to
have
stay
them
in the
sign
class.
it just like
Yeah.
on Parent Square or Skyward. I know one year my son was going to watch a video, and the teacher's like, your mom didn't sign the consent. You can't watch it.
Yes.
And he said, can I call my mom? And he said, yeah, but she has to sign the consent on Parent Square saying that, or on, I think it was Skyward at the time. I went on and signed it, acknowledged, and he was able to watch it. So again, I think we have Skyward, we have Parent Square, that we could do a consent, and it just has to state. Could be vulgar language, could be disturbing material. You know what I'm saying? Like, it really needs to state that some of the things that they could see during this conversation might be too much for some kids, and an opt-out.
Council, how do you, when you go to other districts, how does that work? Do you have a solution for us on that?
No, I really don't. And I think the opt-out's probably a good idea. And again, I'm thinking now as a parent when I would get something like that. And certainly I'd like to take a look at it and things like that. But I mean, I would think putting the onus on the parents to get with you and say, I don't want my child to have to go in and see this. I really think most of the parents are going to want their kids to see. I would think.
Mr. Pender?
Agreed.
I was just wondering, Dr. Morris, you said an opt-out. I think we should do an opt-in.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's just I think it aligns with what we should be doing with the parental rights bill, number one, and I don't think we're supposed to be doing I just wanted to, that's probably what you meant. I just wanted to be clear that it needs to be an opt-in. Thank you for doing this. We appreciate
Absolutely.
it. I think it's valuable.
I'll make a comment directed to Mr. Lewis. As a lawyer, I remember when I was at the University of Florida taking a criminal justice class, and the chief of police from Gainesville Police Department was a guest speaker, and he said, you know who the worst people are to do a traffic stop on? First-year law students.
Oh, for sure. I can imagine that.
Because they think they know everything.
That's a good one.
Well, and now with the internet, everyone's a first-year law student, right? With some reels, we're all first-year law students now. So
I watched some of these, and again, this was actually one of the tamer ones in going through different videos and watching. And there's one where this group of kids, I want to say it was in Texas, and they've all got their phones up, and they're just mouthing on, and these kids want to get arrested. They want to get, and that's exactly what happened. And it's just, I'm trying not to be the old guy in the room, but it's just sending the wrong message as far as, again, I want the kids to drive away. Hopefully they never get pulled over, but if they do, I want them to be able to drive away. And I want a safe interaction, and I just don't want to have to get up in the morning. I guess as one of the burdens as a prosecutor I always have, I get up in the morning, I watch the news, and if I see something happening in Hernando County, the first thing that goes through my mind is, please God, make this somebody I didn't put on probation, okay? That maybe should have gone to prison, or maybe we gave him drug help instead of, incarceration or something like this. And thankfully, that hasn't, I haven't pulled that ticket yet. But you always worry. You always worry about that, and I don't want to get up and see some kid had a bad interaction at a traffic stop when I could have gotten in front of them, and maybe hell, if one of them, takes this and makes the right decision down the road, then it's a victory for all of us.
Perfect.
And if I can just say, I don't know, in your earlier slides, and I don't know, maybe I don't want to be the old guy in the room either, but Some of your slides at the beginning referred to, did the cop make the right decision, or what the reaction or whatever? It says cop. I'm just wondering, should that be like, did the officer?
Law enforcement officer.
Law enforcement, I mean,
Sure, I can-
if we're trying to teach kids to be more respectful than,
Sure.
or proper, when it's written, I just
No, that's
thought
fine.
about
And
that
I have
when
the
when I
disability
saw
of
it.
being around cops way too much.
Right.
So
right.
it rubs off on me
Right.
sometimes.
All right.
Thank you for doing this.
Sure.
Thank you for your time.
All right.
All right.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on now to item number 2, 26-3587. Presentation of Sunrise School Site Update by Brian Reagan, Director of Facilities and Construction, and Jim Lipsey.
It's short, I think, what I remember.
And if we can keep it under 30 minutes for time.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Short and sweet.
Good afternoon. Welcome. You may begin when you're ready.
Clock's ticking, Jim.
Good afternoon. Essentially the purpose of our presentation here today is just to give you an informational update on where we are since the settlement agreement was signed with the developer and with the county for Sunrise, and essentially looking at what our next steps are. How do we move forward? So our goal today is to try and get consensus from you so we can get direction from the superintendent on how you wish to move forward. The first thing I'd like to present is basically a simple timeline, and under the assumption that you would grant consensus for us to move forward, we would begin tomorrow with negotiating a property access license agreement, which we'll cover in detail a little bit further, and there's also an attachment as well that has the draft agreement there. Basically, that grants us as the school district the right to enter the property and to conduct due diligence so that we can make an informed decision on whether we wish to decline the property or accept the property. Following that is a 120-day due diligence period. There are a number of tasks that are listed there. Part of the license agreement asks the current owners to provide whatever information that they currently have, and then whatever they don't have of these tasks we would then need to do. Wrapping up the due diligence then early August allows us to bring this back in front of you at a workshop on August 25th. We'll review with you all the findings from the due diligence and then get a consensus on whether to accept or decline the school site that has been offered. Now, here in part 2 of the timeline, it diverges into 2 different paths. If the consensus of the board is to decline the school site, we would issue a letter declining that offer, and then that would be signed at the September 22nd school board meeting. If the consensus is to accept the site, then we would issue an acceptance letter. That would be followed by a period of negotiation where either a transfer agreement, purchase and sale agreement, whatever that document is that the attorneys deem appropriate, that would be negotiated and then brought back on the September 22nd meeting for the school board to approve and sign the acceptance letter. Then, while the transfer agreement is being negotiated, then that would follow shortly after on October 20th to approve and sign that transfer agreement or purchase and sale agreement, whatever that would be. Final title review and closing would follow thereafter. And the time frame really is kind of tight. You'll notice the statement in red. As per the settlement agreement, if we accept the property, the closing deadline is December 31st of this year. But should the board wish to proceed with that, we feel this is an appropriate timeline and schedule.
So I'll get the next slide. We only have 2 more to go, so we should make our goal. The license agreement that's attached here as a draft, it would be negotiated. As Jim mentioned, it just basically says we can come on the property and do our due diligence, but we won't disturb anything or any operations. They're supposed to provide copies of the documents they have. Jim already touched on that. We would have, our agents would have to have liability and auto insurance to go onto the property, and we would indemnify and hold harmless the owners. It's a 120-day agreement, and basically we would do the survey, geotechnical investigation to see what kind of soil is out there, a phase 1 environmental. We would do an appraisal. We would do a title commitment, title search, that kind of thing. So we'd have 120 days to do that in this agreement with the option to extend it for 90 days. And then the last slide is basically just a checklist of the things that we have to do to get there in the due diligence. And, well, overall, some of the things we've already done, and some of the things like the impact fee credit voucher, we would have to do that whether we accept the land or take the money in lieu of the land. So that's either way.
May I ask a quick question? Sure. You may have already given us this information. Do we know the price of what the survey, the land soil testing, all of the things that you just mentioned? Do we have a rough estimate of what?
We're budgeting about $20,000 for that. In that budget, I did not think about the geotech survey, so you could probably add another $5,000 for that. So probably $25,000 would be a better number.
Okay, thank you.
We wouldn't be paying anything. Jim, do you want to explain better how it works?
Cost of the land, whether we're paying
Well,
for it or
the
not.
appraisal is going to determine that, and Jim, I'll let you elaborate.
If they were to give us the land, they're not giving us anything, right? We still have to give impact fee credits. So that puts us not getting the land for free, naturally. And at this moment, how many impact credits does this equal? Until we have a survey, an appraisal, we're not going to know that.
And you're right, it does hinge on knowing what the property appraises at before we're able to calculate
That's
the
still,
impact fee credits.
is that still at 1.5 times the value, or is it going to be just the straight value of the land?
It's just the straight value of the land. That
was correct.
Was the appraisal cost added into the 25 that you just mentioned? Okay, thank you.
So the due diligence is kind of a double-edged sword. If we decide that we want the land, then the due diligence would give us that information needed to be able to make the right decision. But if we think going into this that we do not want the land, then why would we spend the time or money on doing the due diligence?
Right, 25 grand.
I think the reason that we shouldn't take the land is it's next to a sewer plant, and the county is also talking about expanding that sewer plant. So that alone, it's also across the street from a distribution center with a lot of big trucks, and there's a mine across the street with also large trucks. It's dangerous traffic with all this large equipment being on top of a school. Even if the price was right, I think you get what you pay for. So it looks to me like the land itself, the topography is very low at the beginning. And so where that land is, essentially, we might end up with only about 40 acres anyway, usable. And that would, if that's the case, that 40 acres is about the same we have over on McKeithen, correct?
in terms of developable land, yes.
So at McKeithen, we can only do an elementary or a K-8. Our hands are tied because of the size. So that would also tie us, we'd be in the same position with the same size property of just doing elementary or K-8, if I'm looking at it correctly.
I would agree with that, yes.
Okay. So, and there's, could be a flood zone, depending. Naturally, you have to do all this to figure it all out, but it looks like it's leaning more towards that than not. So with the survey, the environmental assessment, the title review, the appraisal, the 20,000 plus the other that we didn't calculate in, I just think that the 20,000 that we spent plus the other, whatever that would be, upwards of maybe 30,000, we wouldn't get that back whether we accept or decline anyway. That money's gone, correct? So,
Let me ask you another question. We have another piece of property, I'm sorry, there's another development next to this one where we're supposed to get 20 acres?
There had been an offer by Opal Farms for a parcel of land that I'm trying to recall where that decision. Yeah, that was.
So, yeah, I met with a lady. She actually mentioned it at a board meeting. I don't remember her name, but she came up here and got an extension, and she mentioned this property. So I did go out and meet her out there, and at the end of the day, it is near this property, but away from the sewer plant. It's a much better parcel.
How big is it?
I think it was variable. She was all over the board with it. She was going to show me a property that was a mine, but when we got out there was another one. But it went up 80 to 100 acres.
But there was another development being considered right next to Sunrise. If I remember correctly, we're supposed to get 20 acres on that one because I believe altogether was going to come out to like 80 to 100 acres when we were done.
That was Padone, next to the sand pit.
So that particular parcel was under discussion, but was never committed to in the original DRI.
Is that close to where this is, where we could use that for the athletic fields and maybe use it to build a high school? That's my question.
It's across the road, isn't it?
It's
across
diagonally across the road
of Kettering.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we got that property, we'd have enough land to build a physical high school and then have athletic fields across the street.
you better put a bridge for the walkthrough again. And
So because there was no commitment in writing at that.
We didn't get that
particular time,
property.
We
That's- we didn't get that property,
that's
right.
still on the table.
I was just I'm just looking about because what we need out east is a high school.
So
I
if
mean
the-
that's why I was asking that question. We don't need another middle school.
Sorry, Ms. Duval's waiting, sorry.
Mr. Myers, the property that's in question right now at Sunrise, it's next to a treatment plant.
Sewer
The county, the county wants to expand that plant. What law prevents us from selling that piece? We express an interest in buying it, we buy it, and then we turn around and sell it to the county. Is there something that would be a really bad, negative type impact on the school district for doing something like that? Because we know they want that piece of property.
If I may.
Sure.
The expansion for the wastewater treatment plant is happening on property that the county already owns. That's immediately, it's on the same parcel, but they are expanding to the west.
Not the south.
Correct.
Okay.
Mike,
Turn it back on. Turn your light back on.
I'm sorry, or more of a comment, and it's not so much a legal one. Given what's surrounding this parcel and all that, you really think you can do the due diligence in 120 days? I just think, dealing with environmental studies and things like that, that's, to me, overly optimistic based on my experiences with these things.
But if the goal is an elementary or a K-8, we already have a parcel that's sitting there that we're doing nothing with. So
And do we want to smell that? Like, we're going to be in the same predicament that we have with Nature Coast.
that's right. If the goal is for a high school, it's not large enough. So those are
But-
points to consider. There's really no reason to waste the money to do the due diligence on any of the
And how many houses
surveys
have they built
or
so
appraisals.
far? You don't know.
Sunrise?
Yeah.
0 as of yet.
It's all site prep right now.
Yeah, they're doing the site work
It's
and
massive.
preliminary infrastructure.
I haven't been out that way. That's why I'm asking.
It is.
Ms.
But
Bonsick?
McKeithen Road, we can actually build a high school on it and put our fields where it floods. If it floods, they're not going to be able to practice. But I think, I don't know.
That wouldn't be smart, though.
I think putting a high school over at the other side, or even a K through 8 next to a sewage plant isn't smart either.
No,
So-
I just.
So why do we even want to move forward with this?
I don't
Why?
disagree. My whole thing is that I had said earlier, when you heard me say, I don't agree with us spending the money and wasting the money and buying that property. I don't agree at all.
So what, does the rest of the board feel the same way? Do we want to just?
Yeah, you know, with the conversion of East Side Elementary to a K-8, we don't have the need to put a middle school or an elementary out that way right now. We have a need for a high school out that direction. So if we can't accommodate a high school, we don't need it.
I just don't think this is the property for us.
Not to
I mean,
waste
period.
$25,000 for that.
Let's just collect the impact fees and the
Keep going.
the mitigation or whatever they got to pay us up front, which is what, $41,000 per house is what we're doing now.
There is.
But they said that agreement doesn't exist, so you know.
Well, in the revised development agreement that resulted from the settlement agreement, and I don't quote me on this, there was a dollar figure for proportionate share.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, 200, 300,000, not a whole lot, but.
All right, Mr. Vaughn.
Two things. We have the opportunity to have this property. Would we ever have the opportunity to turn around and sell it without penalty? And second, Mr. Pender, what are your thoughts on all of this?
I think the problem
Mr.
becomes.
Pender, wait, I want Mr. Pender to have.
So with some of the challenges with right now with maintaining property, if you remember the last time they were up here, we're selling this matchbox piece of property in the middle of a pasture that's landlocked. To me, from what I know, if we wanted to sell this piece of property, we would have to do the same steps. So we would have to go through all that, offer it to a charter school, offer it to all these other things, you know, all those steps that we're doing for that matchbox piece. And I don't think that we're going to end up being in the business where we're going to start flipping real estate as a school district. And I mean, in the past, yes, if we could get a piece of land really cheap or donated to us and we can sell it and we can dispose of it, yeah, we're going to make some money that goes into the accounts like we talked about. But also, right now, there's SB 824, where right now we have to create an annual inventory list of unused property owned by the school district with several required items like date of acquisition and current value. The DOE will adopt timelines and format for submitting the required information, statewide report due by December 1st, 2026. So we right now have to report to the state all of our property that we're not being used. I wonder where that's going. You know, so I just think we need to be cautious about buying property right now unless we have a plan and we can put it in our 5-year facility plan as to what we're going to do, or we're using that property in some way as a school district moving forward.
And our hands are going to be tied to try to sell it. We could sit on that for a while, so be careful what we wish for. That is next to a sewer plant.
Could
Not
be a
everybody
transportation
wants that.
center.
The big thing is the charter. If we buy that property and a charter school says they want it, we basically have to give it to them for free. So do we want to buy something we're not going to develop? It doesn't make sense. And if we're not going to use it for the purpose we need, then maybe we just hold off and find another piece.
Do we need another transportation at the moment? Like, are we outgrowing that area? I mean, I know like Pasco County has different transportation depots throughout the whole Pasco County because it's spread out so much. To have one on that side of the town.
Yeah, I mean, we used to have one here. That was our transportation before it moved over there. And then it was used over here for like another satellite for a while before it stopped being used that way. But we do have this property here for that would get buses closer. Of course, yes. Could we use something out there? Yeah, we have McKeithen Road.
But
we
we
could
don't
use
have
that
money
right
here.
now if we wanted to as a transportation hub out there, or another satellite place for transportation.
Or for an academy.
But if we had the need for transportation, I mean, I think that would be more suitable because you got the main entrance to the distribution center is across the street from this entrance. So you've got all the semi-trucks coming in there for the Walmart distribution center. To me, it's just not a good place for a school. And I know that when we were, like last year, I think Mrs. Rodriguez and I and different people, like it was all we were talking about is trying to get to a settlement agreement so we could make it to get to this point. So I know that she worked a long time on this and talking to everybody, and I did, and Mr. Rogers and the developers and all that to get to this point today. So whatever the board wants to do, as far as if you don't want to move forward with the due diligence, then I think we skip to the end of these steps.
Agreed.
And do that. I mean, if you do, then we have to start these steps.
I mean, like Mr. Pinder said last year, this is all we did with you two gentlemen, and you guys know how much we were involved. And I just, let me ask your opinions before we close. Would either one of you suggest we buy this property?
I'll go first.
Mr. Reagan?
I wouldn't suggest it, and we're not getting it for free.
That's right.
I wanted to point that out. If we take the land, we have to give them impact fee credits, so we're not going to be getting the value of the land. We're not going to be getting those credits, so we're actually paying for it that way. So it's kind of just like an upfront stipend, I guess, to give us somewhere to build the school. But I think I always said I wouldn't want my children or my kids maybe, but my grandkids, I wouldn't want them, going to school next to a sewer plant. So.
Okay, Mr. Myers.
I just wanted to pick up on what the superintendent said about he was citing that bill. It's pretty clear the Florida legislature's goal is to restrict the ability of public school districts to buy property. So they're going to place more and more impediments on local school districts. So just sort of keep that in mind.
And Mr. Lipsey, what was your
Go ahead.
opinion?
Sorry.
There is also a statute, I have it at the office, not here in front of me, that advises against locating an educational facility, a school, specifically it says next to
Odiferous.
sources of distraction, odiferous. It uses the word odiferous.
Okay.
So.
And weren't you concerned the topography of that property has a lot of different?
That's at the entrance. The land is a little bit lower, and so it would, I'm not a civil engineer, but you would really have to look at where the water collects, where is your entrance coming in, and how does all that
It could
work?
present problems.
So
Ms. Bonzik?
We own McKeithen outright, don't we?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And like you were saying, if you have to add or build it up, we might as well put the money in to build up McKeithen, the 80 acres that we already have, if we already own it.
We have like 40 there that we can use, correct?
Yeah, right.
Right,
now.
that's not built up. You'd have to build up the other 40 to use it, so.
And how much would it cost us to build up? It might be what we
I don't
would
know.
lose. It might be
Right.
less than what we'd lose if we buy
Buy
this
this
other property.
property, exactly, so.
Okay. Board, how do we want to move forward?
I would say that we do not want the property.
Yeah.
So we do not move forward.
I don't think we want.
Ms. Duval, Ms. Bonzik?
I agree not to move forward.
Ms. Duval? Let it go. Okay.
Let it go.
All right.
So do we then go to the step where you bring the resolution back to the board for rejection?
Yes, yeah. So we would ask our attorney to write the letter declining the site, make sure the board is okay with the language on that, and then present that to the owners.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more
Made
thing
your goal.
before you leave.
Goal.
Can you recheck on that Opal property and see what Mr. Reagan, on
I
what
did
she's
check.
offering?
She wanted like $150,000 an acre for it. It
Oh,
was
okay.
Very expensive, and
Oh, okay, she wasn't helping us out any.
no, it was not a favor.
Ah, too bad we did the favor, but that's all right.
Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to item number 3, 26-3647, review and tentative approval of the Neola policy 5517 anti-harassment by Ms. Kidder. Thank you, Ms. Kidder. I won't give you a time frame. I'll let you have as much time as you need.
I think I'm fine if you have it in front of you. The two policies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we?
Right. So good afternoon, board. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present these two policies, as well as good afternoon, superintendent. These have actually come before you in a prior form. The first one being the anti-harassment policy, which is 5517. What happened is when it went to production at Neola actually eliminated some of the text. It was actually a problem that they had, and the reviewer at Neola picked it up and realized it, and they had to work through it again. So the revised policy now includes the text that you originally approved, but we felt like it was important to bring it back to you so that you could see that what you actually approved was now going to be in production and approved as you wanted it. And those changes were made on pages 2 and 3.
Was that because they used AI to generate this and they didn't have a human looking at it? Do you know that?
I don't know that. No, I know
you ask
humans
that?
do review it.
Can you find out? Because the state law now requires any legal document that's being reviewed by AI to disclose it. So I would like to know that.
Okay, well, I will check with them and let you know.
Right? Mr. Myers, did you?
There were some things, and I know this is not part of what was revised, but some things that I thought you should consider, revising. The under definitions, bullying, the first sentence says bullying rises to the level of unlawful harassment when one or more persons systematically and chronically, doesn't have to be chronically. I mean, one incident can be bullying. So a single incident can be bullying. So I think that's something that should be looked at. And
No, I don't think that's correct.
no, it is. Under the law, it is correct. A bullying can be one incident if it's severe enough.
So I was researching this too, but on Florida DOE, this is the exact.
Okay.
This is the exact definition on Florida DOE because I questioned the same thing.
Okay.
But one incident of bullying is bullying.
Yeah, and then
it can be a one incident.
It is defined as and then later on it says it's defined as an unwanted and repeated. In my view, it doesn't have to be repeated. But if DOE says otherwise, the other thing I would.
Can you, before you move forward, what does DOE state?
DOE has exactly the same that we have here. However, I totally agree with Mr. Myers that bullying can be one incident.
We can make
and
it
we
more
can
stringent?
change. We can change it. We can take the word chronically out.
Can we make it more stringent?
Chronically, and or a single incident. I mean, you can add language to it. If someone's going to challenge whether or not that's bullying, where there's been a serious incident.
So you take out the word "and repeated," unwanted written, verbal, or physical behavior.
Well, you could leave in chronically, but also indicate that it could be a single incident. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, you do that by it's defined as any unwanted written, verbal, blah, blah, blah. You just take out the word "and repeated."
Well, there's also at the first sentence too is what he's referring to.
The first sentence.
But both of them.
The first line says chronically, and then further on it says unwanted and repeated. And I think you should leave those terms in there. I think you should also include a single incident can constitute bullying, and bullying doesn't have to be repeated to meet the definition of an act of bullying, in my opinion. But
would you describe a one-time incident so I can think about what you're saying a little bit better?
Yeah.
A threat?
No.
Mr. Myers.
let me.
Because I always thought, sexual harassment. If a guy says, "Oh, I'd like to take you out," and the woman said no, would that be sexual harassment because he asked her out? If she said no and he stopped, I mean, I'm just, under this definition, under that definition. Sometimes
go ahead.
there's a boundary, and people cross a boundary, and you say stop, and they do. Now, that, to me, if the person's changing their behavior, that would not be a harassment. It would not knowing where that person's individual boundary is. So you stop. They do, it's done. If they don't, it is, if you know what I mean. So I can see the repeated, to me, has value.
Right, it does. I'm just asking for,
Well,
give me a specific one-time incident that rises to be.
I think it all depends on how we define an incident. Is an incident repeated statements made by one person to another? We're going to look at it as one. Those are separate statements made, and that constitutes one incident. So is bullying? This is something that's happening one time, but there are several things that the person has made to show that he's bullying this other person.
That's repeated.
Okay, well, it's one incident though. It's one time.
So it's the same person. It's the same person engaging multiple times, and it continues. It continues happening.
And that's
repetitively.
That's repeated, but I think
just trying to understand, sir.
I think it depends how you define the word
Is that
incident.
what you mean? Do you mean the same person?
Say if there's an exchange between two people one time.
You and I, one time.
Right, one time. Can that be bullying?
Well, this says.
And I think it can be.
Yeah, but this says systematically and chronically. So systematically means it's more than one occasion.
And you're inflicting physical hurt or psychological. So,
I mean, I guess for one-time bullying would be like saying, that shirt is really ugly, and I wish you'd commit suicide. One time saying it to somebody. Would you consider that bullying?
Yeah.
A threat?
Or
only one time. They only said it one time.
But the systematically is like a group of people attacking the same person.
I'm not sure the conversation that we're having has any bearing, because the way I understand this policy, it is statute. We have copied statute. If you go down to the bottom, if you scroll down to the bottom, it refers to the statute, I believe. So if this is statute that's been copied, I would just suggest that if you want us to look into it and verify that it's statute, that we table this, leave it the way it is now in our policy. We'll look into it, make sure it's word for word Florida statute. If it's Florida statute, I don't think we should.
So
I would agree.
Yeah,
so I want to address a concern with how our student protection policies may be functioning in practice. I know we have the Neola policy 5517 we're discussing, and then the 5517.01 in place. The 5517.01 is bullying, and the 5517 is harassment. But we have to treat the harassment and the bullying as equal priorities simultaneously, because what's happening is, while we have both of them, we have to acknowledge that 5517 does not cover all forms of bullying for students' experience, which may be what you're talking about. It is limited to unlawful harassment under laws like Title IX and Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So that means if we're not consistently applying policy 5517.01 alongside 5517 as required under the Jeffrey Johnston Stand Up for All Students Act, there is a real risk that some student situations are not being addressed appropriately or early enough, which is what you're trying to say right now with stopping it before it continues to manifest. This is where accountability matters. So I think we need clarity on how is the staff being trained, how are incidents being classified, and whether early intervention, which council is what you're discussing, is actually happening across all schools. Because if there is no, if there's inconsistency in the application, then we're not fully protecting every student. And as a school board member, I am reached out consistently from parents about bullying. That's probably the #1 chief complaint I get and that I'm involved in with bullying with their child. So bullying comes in many different stages. And I think that's what council's alluding to the fact
Well,
of.
yeah, you said it much better than I did. I mean, I think that's the idea behind the policy, is to prevent it from happening again.
Yes.
So you could make an argument that bullying has to be pervasive, but if you're aware of an incident that could be borderline bullying or harassment, you want to nip it in the bud. So I think we have to rely on what the statute says, but let's look at that.
So I think.
Well, a lot of it is reporting too.
Yeah,
You know,
okay,
getting
so
that
let's
first
talk
step.
about that. So how are staff trained to distinguish between policy 5517 and 5517.01 in real time when incidents are reported?
If a child reports immediately, and because I sit on bullying committee, they're supposed to immediately start an investigation, whether she goes to a teacher, and it's a big thing that when we're in bullying committee that we tell our teachers and our staffs and our social workers that come out to make sure that as soon as a child says this, an incident's happening, an investigation's happening.
My question is, how are the staff trained to distinguish between the two
I
policies?
don't think they have to. It's not their job. Their
5517
job is to bring it to
and
the supervisor.
5517.01. That's where we have to know, because that both of those together have to be involved, or this can't work. And
That's
then,
up to a supervisor.
and then do we have data showing how many incidents are classified under just the 5517, as well as, if you could get that for me, the 5517.01, because that makes a huge difference.
So I think that we can have Jill come and present the data that you want, because one would be incessor under harassment, one would be under bullying. Just as a general blanket statement from my experience from your question between the two, I think when they're reported, the procedure at the front is the same for the two, and then it branches off into, is it harassment or is it bullying?
So are parents clearly informed which policy their child's situation falls under and why?
If it,
This
well,
is-
yeah, when we get to that point, because that's part of that process of the investigation, that parents have to be informed. The person that's doing the bullying and the victim both have to be informed. It's in that process. So we can bring that back to show you.
I think so. What safeguards are in place also to ensure that cases not meeting a legal harassment threshold are still addressed promptly under that bullying policy? So all of these questions, I feel like this is something that, along with earlier at the workshop that we had spoken to you about with the campus and all the things, I think this is another thing that's near and dear to my heart when it comes to that we could probably look at and analyze it a little differently in the approach and how we're doing it and what we're doing to safeguard and put protection in place for the kids.
I also want to go back to changing the chronically to the one time. I take back what I said, actually, because I feel like we could put ourselves in a really bad position if we do make that a one-time thing, because little Johnny can say, "You're ugly," and now an investigation is going on that he's bullying, and he said it one time and he said he was sorry, and now he's in big trouble for bullying. So I think that would set us up for even more problems by saying just one incident in this. So I definitely want to
Well, the only thing
look at that.
I think you're right, but if it's severe enough, I'm just saying.
Right, and severe enough, right.
If it's not severe, like you're ugly.
But wholehearted, honestly, I would hope our bullying committee that sits on it and looks at these would really have enough common sense to say, wait a minute.
That falls under.
Right.
And-
This
Or
is
harassment.
one time, but it's bad enough that it's bullying or it's harassment or whatever. Like,
Yeah, so I think the main thing is, like you said, the bullying committee, that district-wide standard that we're supposed to have, is that happening across the board, or are schools interpreting these policies differently? So we need to make sure, because I have seen that too as a school board member at this moment, that it's a little bit all over the place depending on the situation.
We do have in the code of conduct 2 separate items. One is among many. One is for bullying.
And one is
and
for
one
harassment.
is for harassment.
But if we don't
And
merge them together, it's
No,
not
they're-
benefiting.
They're different.
What are
We
the-
have to follow the Cessor definitions. That's a requirement. So these are specifically what we have to have in our policy in terms of wording.
Right, but we have to apply the 5517.01 alongside with 5517.
They're just looking at disciplines on this, and this is
Right.
not specific in here with the policy number. Harassment, any threatening, insulting, or dehumanizing gesture, use of data or computer software or written verbal or physical conduct that places a student or school employee in reasonable fear of harm to his or her person or damage to his or her property has the effect of substantially interfering with a student's educational performance opportunities or benefits, or, and it goes on and on. We have a very specific discipline policy, first offense, second offense, based on elementary and secondary. And the same thing is under bullying. And there it is, intimidating behaviors that are repeated, intentional, and involve a power imbalance, systematically and chronically inflicting physical hurt or psychological distress on one or more students or employees. And then it goes on to define it even further. So we have a code of conduct that we follow. We have now, starting this current school year, we have the matrix, which tells everybody what is to occur with some flexibility in there based on grade levels.
That's
one other thing. One other edit.
Okay, Mr. Myers.
I just also on page 5, what's in bold there, where it says any teacher, administrator, coach, or other school authority who engages in sexual conduct with a student may be also guilty of a crime. Why don't we have school district community, including students? What if you have an 18-year-old student who rapes a 16-year-old girl? Why would we not include students in that paragraph?
I don't disagree.
Okay, so we'll ask those questions. We'll check to see if this is Florida statute, and we'll ask Jill to do a presentation of the practice of how this comes together with a bullying. I believe, if I remember right, on the form, it's called bullying/harassment form that's filled out.
I just want to make
So
sure.
we don't at the beginning determine whether it's bullying, harassment. There's a complaint, we put it on the form, we investigate it, and then we branch off into is it harassment or is it bullying for
Correct.
school board
The,
policy.
the biggest problem is getting teachers to realize that when a child comes to them and they say something, they automatically do the incident to get it investigated. A lot of times they tell the child, have mom or dad go on the website and pull the thing, and then the parent don't fill it out, or the parent don't want to fill it out, and then nobody knows, and the investigation doesn't
So,
happen.
Mrs. Bonzik, if there's inconsistency in how these policies are applied, is what I was saying, then we're not fully protecting every student.
And
Exactly
that's
what you're
what I-
saying. And
that's
that's
what we get.
something that we need to fix. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about policy language. It's about whether a child feels safe walking into a school. The policies don't protect students. Consistent
Correct.
application does. So
Correct.
we have to make sure. So for me, there's a lot of things here that we can have a bullying committee all day long. But if we're not applying all of this in every school and we're not doing it consistently across the board, and the kids at the end of the day need to feel safe. They need to feel safe, just like you said. I think that's imperative. I think that as a school board member, our role is to make sure that the bullying is zero tolerance and that these children feel safe in our brick and mortar
Correct.
building.
And during the committee, that's the biggest thing that is harped on, is as soon as a child says something,
Yes.
the investigation must be opened, no matter
That's
what
what's
they
not
say.
happening. We get, how many complaints do you get? I get a lot of
I get a lot.
complaints where the parents say, oh, the kid's being bullied. Nothing's being investigated, nothing's done. The teacher doesn't want to take the report, and when a teacher does, the supervisors don't want to take action. That's somewhere in that chain, there's a failure. That's what needs to be addressed.
I know
We got to get the teachers to take the reports. We got to get the supervisors to go through with it and not put it in the circular file because they don't think it's warranted.
Because I feel
There's
like
nothing going in a circular file.
They're investigating everything.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes under the policy, council, maybe this is sort of where you were going with too, under 5517 or 551701, whatever it is, I feel like if it doesn't meet that threshold, sometimes we tend to go back to, well, this is policy. Or like you said, this is DOE, this is what they say. And at the end of the day, when we're just doing that, it could be dismissed or delayed, like
Well,
you're saying.
I'm comforted by what the form says, harassment/bullying. That means a determination will be made, whether it's one or the other. Because I mean, we want to argue about whether or not bullying is repeated or one time. There's no question that harassment one time is sufficient to be harassment. So if it belongs in the harassment camp, what I'm saying is I just want it to be investigated. And since you have a form that calls it both, I'm fine with that.
I would like to also say that there's been several people that reported bullying to me, and then when I did the reached out, investigation was already open, and they were already, so but definitely we could do more. We could always do more.
Yeah, we just have to make sure that,
Always room for improvement.
yeah, our staff are expected to act, of course, when the behavior doesn't meet a legal threshold, but it's still harmful. And that's the thing, it can a lot of times, I think that some of you hit the nail on the head when you said a lot of times we look at it and we say, well, what does it fall under? Or if a teacher reports it and then it goes further, but then it stops. We have to make sure that at the end of the day, that the safety of that student, whoever that's directly affecting, sorry, these are hazards on campus.
All right, Mr. Johnson wants to chime in really quick, or?
Yeah, because what we're dealing with is the perception that we're not addressing bullying. So every time one kid bumps into another or says, oh, you're stupid, it's bullying. Maybe it's not. But the perception is we're not addressing it, we're not taking care of it. That's a cultural issue within the school system that we need to change. So how do you change it? Same way we started to change the gangster mentality. You crack down on it, you become very hard on it. You take every little incident and report it and take an action. Maybe it doesn't warrant a suspension. Maybe it warrants something different. But if you let it go, we'll still have that perception that there's a lot of bullying going on. I won't name the middle school that I know people that won't go there. They go outside the school district because it's known for its bullying, and nothing is done about it.
So I think you're saying.
Now, that's a perception. Whether it's actually happening or not is not the reality, but perception is reality. So we need to change the perception, and we need to be able to nip this in the bud and control it. And once we do that, all of a sudden things will be a lot better.
So absence of reported issues doesn't always mean absence of problems.
No.
So we just want to make sure that we're on top of everything.
Ms. Duvall, did you?
Mark, for bullying and harassment, the disciplines are out of school suspension from the get-go. It's not that it's not being addressed. They are taking action. I do feel that sometimes parents would like more than what they get. Sometimes some things are labeled unfounded, and parents don't like that. But the investigations do take place.
But maybe it's not bullying. Maybe it falls into a lesser category where the out-of-school suspension may not be the right punishment. Maybe an in-school suspension or a note in a file or something different or a loss of a privilege might be more appropriate.
We have that for other things, but those two specifics, they're out of school because we don't tolerate it.
But it's the perception in the public is it's rampant in the schools. And maybe because they're not finding it.
Well, it's good that we're sitting here.
Excuse me. Maybe because they're not finding it bullying or harassment, maybe it's something completely different. And there is something that they could be assessed with. And if that's explained properly to the parent of the child who's the victim, maybe that would appease it. I don't know what the exact answer is, but the perception is there's rampant bullying going on. And how do we get rid of that perception? We have to change the culture.
Mr. Pender.
So I think what the point that you're talking about, Mr. Johnson, and we have to connect here is that, so in the practice of this, someone reports that somebody bullied me. That form, that bullying and harassment form is started by a practice, and there's investigation. If it's determined to be bullying, then Student Code of Conduct gives us the consequence for bullying. If it's determined to be harassment, it gives us the consequence. But if it's also determined to be neither, but it might have been a push and shove, then there's then they get those consequences in school board policy too. And so I just wanted, I think that's what you're getting at, is there's something is happening based on our investigation with this, but it may or may not be bullying or harassment. I mean, most of the time it probably is, but there are those times. There's a whole nother layer of the student code of conduct for other things.
So maybe that's not being relayed to the parent of the victim. And if that's related to the parent of the victim, well, we investigated, it doesn't rise to the level of harassment, but it is a push and shove, and this is how the
But we
child-
can't tell that parent that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we're not, as administrators, we were not allowed to tell the parent of the victim what we did. We could tell them that appropriate discipline consequences have been applied.
I think
and
maybe
when
we
you
should visit
develop that
that somehow.
relationship with parents,
We should
they
try-
trust you to know that, yes, something has been done and it has been dealt with.
I think somehow
I think it's a HIPAA law. That's why you can't discuss. It's something that falls in HIPAA, that you can't discuss what happened with a child to somebody else.
And I think it's good we're having this conversation up here on this board, because I think what Mr. Johnson is saying is referring to that social media, or all the posts and different things that we see out there, there is a lot of hearsay about bullying, and things
it
go
feeds
around.
itself.
Yes, and so it continues to spread. And I think this isn't about placing blame. It's about making sure that our systems are as strong and clear as they need to be. That's part of our role as a board. So, I definitely don't think any of our administrators take any of it lightly. Everybody that I've encountered at all of our schools, it's very serious to them. So I don't think that we have a problem when it comes to that. I think, though, that we do have a problem on being able to address and differentiate what's significantly important and what's not. And a lot of times, I think the clarity of going back to the law and the statutes, that muddies the water some, because I think what Mr. Johnson's saying is sometimes it doesn't have to be something that's exactly with the statute. It could be something minor, but that minor continues to prevail and it continues to lead to something bigger. And so what he's trying to say is that we need to nip it in the bud at the beginning before it becomes gigantic.
That too, but if the student says that Shannon was bullying Casey, and it comes out that no, she wasn't. It was a push and shove.
Yes, she was.
The parent, because you're bossy. But so in that case, the parent of both students know who the other party is. You're not violating HIPAA in my mind, by saying, hey, Casey was talked to, Casey got this kind of punishment, or she was punished, rather than just say, oh, she was dealt with. I think if we got a little clearer with it.
Legally, I don't disagree, Mr. Johnson, when it comes to what you're saying on a layperson level. I don't disagree. I think parents hate to hear, we can't tell you anything, it was just dealt with. Because me as a parent, when I hear that, okay, what'd you really do? You probably didn't do anything. This is what you hear on social media, that did they really deal with it or didn't they? So if you don't guarantee them an outcome, you're left to wonder. And of course, that wonder at that time, they're the victim, or they feel victimized, so they feel like, did they really do anything? And they never know. So it does leave that question in their mind. So I understand how optics appears, but at the end of the day, legally, we legally cannot go past what is the law, and we cannot give these parents the affirmative action of the plan of what we did and tell them that, because legally we would be violating.
I don't know about that. I could see HIPAA coming into place if there was an IEP in place, possibly. If there's no IEP or plan, I don't know if HIPAA would be violated.
It isn't HIPAA, it's FERPA. FERPA is what we're talking about, not HIPAA.
He mentioned HIPAA, that's why
no, it's not HIPAA, it's FERPA. It's for educational records.
Sorry, my medical came out in me.
So we're gonna.
Quite all right.
So we're going to table this. So we're going to table this and have Ms. Colasa come back with clarification on things and further discussion.
Well, can I just,
Sure.
just, in reading the statute, was it Jeffrey Johnson? They link bullying and harassment, and the reason why they do it is obvious, because they are defining bullying as pervasive, more than one, but then there's also harassment. So they're inextricably linked by statute.
And there's a reason, because they want to make
So,
one.
I think technically the policy is right the way it's written, but the fallback is harassment if it's one incident. So, because that's what the statute says.
So we can just move forward?
With that part, I still.
No, we just need 5517 and 5517.01. One is harassment, one's bullying. And the reason that I've been saying from the beginning of this meeting that we need to treat harassment and bullying as equal priorities is exactly what council's trying to get at. That it could be an isolated event or it could be multiple. But if you don't put it together, I think that mainly we have to train our staff to not wait for something to meet legal harassment thresholds. I think that's the biggest thing. And that when a child is being told something that's damaging in the first go around, usually that same child is going to get that again and again repeated as we continue. So we
But
just
that
need,
first time's going to be investigated.
yes, so we just need to make sure that all of our staff and everybody across the board, across the whole county, that we're all complying, we're all doing the exact same.
Well.
So I'm not saying we're not. I'm just saying that that's one of the, as a school board member, one of the main topics that I receive multiple emails, numerous, week after week concerning.
Ms. Ketter?
Oh, my question is then, are we going to move forward to a regular board agenda on this, or is this going back to workshop?
No, it's good.
Okay.
Right? We're good with it?
I just want to make sure, I'll be
Ms.
glad to
Rodriguez,
follow
are
up
you
on your
good with-
questions with AI and
with-
with Ms. Kalasa?
Would this coming before the board, or you want them to bring it back and Ms. Kalasa go over?
You want
This
this to
again.
come to the board
This has
as
been to
it
the board
is,
once already.
and then, but have the presentation by
We
Jill
already,
on how
we already
enforce it.
approved it.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, you already
Okay,
approved
so-
You did approve it.
Well, yeah,
already
it's
been
just
approved.
it's correcting what was wrong with it.
It's
that's
just
all.
correcting
what was-
page 2 and 3.
That's all.
Misinformation,
We already
right,
approved
information, not that.
that
right.
copy.
The scribble got it wrong, right? The scribe.
That was it. Just those page 2 and 3.
Information not
The scribble got it wrong.
So it's
listed.
done, it's already done.
Okay.
We're just
well,
doing
we
due
can still
diligence,
have
bringing
Jill
it back
come
to
and
you.
talk about it.
Yeah,
Corrected.
we'll have Jill.
You know,
come
and I was, you can blame me, because I was the one who said it should come back to the board.
already been there.
Because you have that language that was inadvertently left out. But as I looked at it, I just saw some things that I just wanted to raise.
Okay, so we're going to put this on the agenda then
Next
for
agenda?
next agenda for approval.
It's
but-
just a correction because we already did it.
Okay.
We just wanted to be forthright and let you know that we're bringing it back so that it's as
It-
you approved it.
Is it the same issue
Yes.
with the next one? It's
It
just
is-
a mistake that they
You have
found?
seen the graduation one as well. You're talking about the next policy, 5460.
Yes.
The issue there, when reviewed, was
I need
there was
to,
some
wait a second,
language-
before we go there. We need to clarification. So item number 3, we're going to move on and bring it before the board. It's already been approved. We're not having a workshop on it. Okay? And so now we're going to, we'll have Jill do a workshop on anti-bullying. And now we're going to move to item number 4, 26-3571, review and tentative approval of Neola policy 5460 graduation requirements. Now you may go ahead, Ms. Kidder.
Okay. The reason this is being brought before you is on the first read, there were references to certificates of completion being issued to ESE students.
Correct.
And there were also some grammatical issues that you brought to our attention. So we went ahead and made those changes so that we're now in compliance with the new graduation requirements in this
Which
policy.
you're changing again.
Okay.
Well, for now, we have
For
to
now.
keep it what it is.
As of, those changes were made as of July of 2025, so.
Okay. Any
So it's
discussion
just
on
to
this?
bring this to the board for a vote.
That's
Right.
it.
That's
I'm good
all
with
we're
it.
doing.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you for fixing or making the corrections. All right. Any further discussion on this? Okay. Mr. Myers, do you have any closing comments?
No, I've said enough today.
Board, do you? Board, do you have any closing comments?
I'm good.
Okay.
No, no.
Okay.
But
Well-
just a little clarification. My stepson did have issues with breathing, and we were up at 3 o'clock at anticipating that point with him. He's still there. He has problems with congestive heart failure and diabetes, which excavated his, I can't pronounce that word, his circumstance, but he's stable now.
That's good news. Thank you for being here after being up all night. All right. All right, and this, Mr. Pender, do you have any? Superintendent Pender? All right, this workshop is adjourned at 3:50 p.m.